Welcome to the third lecture of Mastering RESTful APIs. In this lecture, we will dive into the practical aspect of creating RESTful endpoints. RESTful endpoints are the backbone of any REST API, serving as the entry point for clients to interact with your application. They are defined by routes that map to a specific resource and are accessed using standard HTTP methods. For example, a GET request is used to retrieve data from a server, while a POST request is used to create a new data. Put and patch requests are used to update existing data, and delete requests are used to remove data from the server. So before we see about the HTTP request structure, let us practically view how a basic HTTP request looks like. For that, I'm going to open a new tab and let me open google.com. After this, I'm going to right click and click on inspect. This will open the browser's dev tool where you can analyze the code of the website that is being viewed. And you can also monitor the network traffic that happens. So right now, I'm going to click on this fetch/xhr, which only filters out the HTTP request that goes through the website or the browser. So I'm going to clear the current logs, and then I'm going to search for example. So if we view the inspect panel now, we could see a number of requests that has been hit. Let me click the first request, and here we have three sections in this header part. So any HTTP request has three sections. One is the definition of the request, that is, it has the URL, the path of the request, and it has the method of the request, which can be get, put, post, delete, and patch. And the other data that we see here is the status code. It is a numeric value which defines a specific definition or defines a specific status of the request. And we have the remote address and referral policy, all these which we can ignore for now. And then we have the response header, which consists of the data about the response that we have received. And then we have the request header, which is the header data that the browser sends along with the request that has been happened. And this is the place where we use to pass the security tokens and other details regarding the request that we are going to make. And then at the top, we have this payload section. So payload is the part where the transferred data can be viewed. The data that is going to be transferred through a HTTP request is known as a payload. So every REST request is a basic HTTP request. And then we have this preview section, which is the prettier view of this response section. So we have some data here, which we have received as part of the request that has happened. And then it would be the same for all the XHR requests that has happened. So now let us go back to our slide. And here we have a list of HTTP methods, its status code, and the reason for which this status happens. So in the first column, we have the method, and then we have the code, which is the status, and then we have the reason for the status. So when a method is get and has a status code of 200, then it means retrieved resource. That is, it is a success. The request has passed successfully. And for a GET request, if a 404 message comes, then it means that the resource not found, which means the URL has responded that the resource requested is not available. And in a POST request, when we have 201 as response, it means create a new resource. And when we have a 200 response in a post, it also means retrieve resource, which is a success response. While 400 stands for a bad request, 409 stands for a conflict. And when it comes to put method, we have the same 200, which means a success message where a put refers to an update of the resource. So here the success has happened for update, and thus we have update an existing resource as the definition. And the 204 refers to no content. Successful update with no response body. And then we have 404, which means resource not found, as we saw earlier. And then we have a 409, which says conflict. So there is some mistake that has happened while updating. So in that case, we will be passing a 409 response. And then we have a patch method. So when we receive 200 through a patch method, then the data has been merged. It means the update has happened partially. And then we have 400, which is a bad request, 204, which is no content, as we saw earlier. And we also have 404, which is a resource not found. And then we have the delete method. So when delete has happened, here we have made the request and the request has succeeded, and the success refers to deletion of resource. So the response won't have any data. The same case as what we see at 204 for put and patch, here also it means the same. So the request has been successful, it has done the action required, and there is no data to be sent back as part of this request. Then we are having 204 as the status code. And then we have a 404 status, which refers to resource not found. And then we have 409 status, which is a conflict. So here 409 also happens when we do a put request. So this denotes that there is some issue that has happened while trying to delete it. It could be the item is having some relation or is tied up with some other object, and it has caused an issue while deleting because of few validation cases. So 409 can be some internal logic is preventing a delete case, and we have this 409. So these are the HTTP methods, status code, and the reason behind these codes. So right now we will try to develop our own HTTP method, and we will try to test it using a tool known as Postman. So let's get started.